Okay folks, and welcome to this Autocad tutorial. Autocad is the program that we're going to start drawing in. We've previously drawn with pen and pencil, and I think you will find that Autocad is a little bit more forgiving. You can make things look a lot nicer in Autocad, and when you make mistakes you can erase them without leaving pencil marks and crunched up paper. Anyways, this should be the window that you see. I'm using the Autocad 2019 version for these tutorials, but they're essentially going to be the same as the 2017 versions that you are going to be working with. The first thing to do when you open up Autocad is you're going to want to start a new drawing. For the practice challenge questions that I have for you, the drawings are all going to be in metric. All the dimensions given are in metric. And that means that we're going to come up here and open a new drawing. Try that again, open a new drawing, there we go. We're going to come to Autocad ISO. ISO generally means metric. Regular Autocad is going to be an imperial, so let's go with metric. Autocad ISO DWT, that's our template. And we'll open it up, and we'll see something that looks like this. So a couple things to orientate ourselves to the program. We have our drawing tools here. I can select this and draw a line if I wish, or a number of lines. When I'm done, I can hit enter, and now I've drawn my lines. I can also draw a polyline. Somehow the polyline will allow me to draw curves as well. There we go. If I wanted to draw a curve, I'm pressing the down arrow key on my keyboard to draw a curve. But that's not super important. I can hit enter. Oh gosh, okay, that's a bit of a crazy shape. We don't necessarily want that shape. If I click once and I drag from left to right, anything I entirely encircle will be selected, and I can go ahead and delete that. If I click from left or right to left, anything I touch with my box will be selected. So even though I'm not entirely surrounding this line here, I'm just touching it, it is being selected, and I can delete it. Delete everything. Ooh, let's go here. There we go. Now, there's other shapes that we'll get into later. There's some tools here that we can use to adjust or to, it says modify the shapes that we've drawn. Over here we can add dimensions, annotations it's referred to as, but dimensions, which mean, oh, I have this line here. I want to know how long it is, so I can select it and draw a dimension, and there we go. It's quite long. And we'll learn how to change the dimensions later. Gonna go ahead and delete that. Right, so now we've gotten the gist of what we're doing with AutoCAD. We can draw shapes, tell people how long those shapes are or how big those shapes are. The first thing that we're going to want to do is set up our layers. So you can kind of think of layers as being different colors of pencil, different colors of pen maybe, or in different layers of paper, all of which are transparent that you can keep stacking on top of each other. And on each layer you draw something different, right? So if you think about maybe a house, you would draw the walls on one layer, you might draw the furniture on another layer, maybe you want to draw the plumbing on a third layer. And that way you can look at different parts of the house separately, right? So you only want to look at the walls, you can only look at the walls. You only want to look at the plumbing, you can look at the plumbing. You don't want to look at the furniture, you can turn off the furniture. So it's pretty important that we get all our layers going on. General practice is that we don't want to draw on zero layer. So we can go into layer properties, and it looks like we have two layers going on here. Can I move this box, please? There we go. So we have two layers going on, and we have depth points and zero. And we're going to ignore those. We're going to create a new layer up here with this star new layer. And we're going to call it our object layer for now. Okay? And this is the layer on which we want to draw our things. So whatever we want to draw, we're going to use this object layer. And to differentiate it from the other layers, we're going to change its color. And you can pick whatever color you like. Red's kind of a cool color. I'm going to go with red. We're going to make it continuous. Line weight is how thick the line is. And the default is kind of thin. Maybe we'll go with something a little bit bigger. Oh, nothing super huge, right? 2.11 millimeters is quite thick. I'm thinking maybe 0.15 millimeters might be nice. And that's all we want to do for that layer. Now we want to make another layer, and we're going to call this our construction layer. And what you'll find, construction. And what you'll find is that sometimes you want to draw extra lines to help you build things. You need to use these lines to measure things and reference off of, but we don't want them to be in our final drawing. So what we do is we use construction lines, and we'll change the color to something else. Maybe we'll change our construction lines to, I wouldn't say blue is a cool color, but blue is kind of similar to the background color and might not stick out. So maybe we'll go with green, and we'll make it the same width. That's okay. But the line type, there's all kinds of line types. So this is a continuous line type. It literally means it's a solid line. And if I come into load, why don't I take an ISO dashed line as well? And we'll say that this is our dash line. And what that means is that it's going to be a dash line, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. So I've got my 2 extra layers set up, and later on in the course we'll certainly get more. Typically we would make one for dimensions as well, but for now we're not going to bother with that. And we can close this window, and now I come to this drop down menu and I have a few more options. So I have my object. If I draw an object line, I see that now it is a red line. Right? I've now drawn a red line. It's my object line. I'm happy. Now say I want to find the middle of this box. Well, I could draw with my object lines some more, but I might not want to do that. Maybe I'll use my construction lines instead. And I can draw another line like this. And another line like this. And you'll see that I used a text command to open that up, and we'll talk about those later. And now I've drawn 2 lines, and that helps me find the center of my box. Eventually, I might not want to see those lines anymore, so what I can do is I can turn them off. Oh, it's my current layer. So let's change my layer to object line, and then I will turn off my construction lines. Oops. I will turn off my construction lines. There we go. Now my construction lines have disappeared, and I'm left with just my object lines. So those are our layers. That's how we use them. We'll draw our objects with something labeled object, and we'll draw our construction lines or our helping lines with something labeled construction.